What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my Halo 5 Guardians Mythic Difficulty walkthrough, also known as LASO. That's Legendary All Skulls on, no saves, no deaths, and scoring enabled. So, welcome back. Today we are doing Mission 8 entitled Swords of Sanghelios. We are officially halfway through the game now. I'm not going to lie, it's been a while since the last entry to this series, but it's not due to a lack of trying. This is a very lengthy mission, and even though I love playing it on Legendary, on Mythic, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a grind fest. Spend a lot of time in the Mantis. So, here's what you're going to do. Go ahead and switch over to your pistol. We're going to sprint right through this wall right here, Spartan charge it right through. Swap your pistol for this plasma pistol, and we're just going to rush this part. So, jump up on this incline right here. Keep going. Go ahead and jump up here and boost. And you want to go through this little underpass right here. Go ahead and melee a jackal if you want. And go ahead and overcharge this turret right here to keep it from firing. If it hits the elite instead, that's fine. Basically, your goal is to make sure it doesn't shoot at you. And it did work just fine. So go ahead and keep sprinting, get up here. Hopefully some of your allies did make it. But you want to go ahead and switch over to your battle rifle. We have snipers right around here. You want to be very careful. Edge out very slowly. So there's 3 of them total. There's one right there. Whenever you hit one, the point should indicate that it's down. You have one up top over here on the left side. If you miss, he'll usually go back into cover. So you want to try to hit him the first time around. We got him. And there's one right beneath him as well. And he can be a little tricky too. So we're going to use this rock right here as sort of a way for him to shoot at that instead of you. So he's down for the count. Now go ahead and get on this upper ledge. Don't pick up the carbine quite yet. There's going to be 3 grunts that jump up on this ledge right here. One should have a needler and the other 2 should have a plasma pistol. I think the needler one should be the top priority since the rounds actually home in, but it doesn't really matter as long as you don't get super combined. Go ahead and switch out for the carbine. We're going to use that for most of the mission. Ground pound to the sledge and focus over here to the left. There's going to be 3 grunts and 1 elite that emerges. Now, my aim was a little bit off here, unfortunately, but that's okay. Now, the elite is just going to continuously chuck grenades. Now, because there's nothing behind you, it's a drop, the grenades shouldn't land anywhere near you, so just pepper them with the plasma pistol, finish him off with a headshot from the carbine. If you do have a grunt that you missed, go ahead and finish him off as well. That way there's no enemies in this area, at least before the drop pods show up. And go ahead and Spartan charge through this little area right here. Gives us elevation, and there is an infinite ammo crate right here. So once you approach it, the drop pods will come down. Your allies, it really doesn't matter where they are at this point, but you want to focus on that turret. A Ranger Elite is going to mount it. Go ahead and pepper it. Remember, the Ranger Elites have very weak shields. So once he's down, the second Ranger Elite is going to take it as well. And just do the same thing, rinse and repeat. Both Ranger Elites should be easy to kill. And you're going to have a lot of jackals in this area. Right below you, you're also going to have a few grunts and an elite warrior. I had to think of the ranking for a second. Basically, it's like a zealot in this game. And so we're going to go ahead and just pick these guys off. Be aware of the elite's location if you can see him. Usually he's right under you. In this particular instance, I had a harder time finding him just simply because where he was sitting is a little unusual. But generally speaking, he's going to be hanging around with the grunts. Sometimes you'll get lucky and he'll mount the turret in the back, in which case it'll be an easy kill. Usually in this case, your best bet, I mean, basically what the best case scenario is if an elite gets on a turret and your allies don't shoo him away by throwing grenades at him. That makes him an easy kill. You can just pepper him with a plasma pistol and finish him off with a carbine round. So I already took out the grunts that are on the ground level for when our allies return. They're all dead right now, but that's okay because there's no enemies around except supposedly the elite. But I can't figure out where he is. I can hear him, so he sounds like he's close, but I don't see him around. I'm not getting shot at. I'm trying to be very careful here. Now, you're going to be spending a lot of the first half of the mission in this spiral area. Essentially, this mission is divided into 4 parts. The initial speed rush, the spiral room, which is what this is, basically 2 floors, this one in the upper level. The third part is the arena. That's where you're going to fight a few Covenant and a pair of Hunters. And the final part is the Mantis run. So again, you're just going to want to take your time. This is a bit of a lengthy segment. It's about 25 minutes long, give or take, depending on your efficiency. And it's just a matter of taking out as many enemies as you can, if not all the enemies. And there's a lot of them here, especially a lot of elites. So I can't figure out where he is, so I'm going to go ahead, and now that my allies are back, I'm going to go ahead and send them over to the middle of the room to see if we can sort of flush them out. One of your main tools at your disposal that you're going to be using your allies for in this mission is flushing out your enemies. Basically sending them in as decoys so you can figure out where your enemies are, more specifically elites. That's going to be a big deal. They'll also help you soften the enemies up a little bit so you can take them down a little bit easier. So there's an enemy over there, but I'm guessing it's probably another ranger elite, because there is another ranger elite as well as, I believe it's another warrior right beyond that corner. So I don't know where he is, so I'm jumping down, and what do you know? He's actually stuck in the pod right there. He never came out. Now this is a good thing, because he won't attack you, and if you want, you can just go over there and get yourself a recharge with your shields. Remember, with the black eye skull on, the only way your shields recharge is if you melee an enemy or hijack a vehicle. So with all those guys down, we're going to slowly progress towards the top. You're going to have a couple of jackals over here, some grunts over there on the far left, and one elite that is currently on a turret. So again, we can take him out pretty easily. He's not going to dodge and bounce around. And again, it's a slow and steady thing. This is partially what makes the mission so boring, is it almost feels pretty mandatory to have to do all this. There is a trick that I saw in a speed run where the player was able to launch themselves by being under a drop pod when it came down. I've tried that many times, and it seems to be sort of luck of the draw. So I wouldn't recommend it for a mythic run, especially since it would probably destroy your shields in the first place. And it should be mentioned that if you try to skip through this area into the next, the Covenant will follow you. In fact, in the previous area, once you skip it, if you're not careful, sometimes the elites will follow either you or your allies. So just keep note of that. Always, you want to try to advance to that previous area as quickly as possible. Once you skip it, get those snipers down as quickly as you can, then take out the grunts and jump down into this area right here. That way you don't have to worry about those pesky elites that you left behind. So again, we're just trying to wait these guys out. Trying not to advance too quickly, because I know there's another elite over there. And he's got a couple of jackal buddies, at least one that I'm aware of. But these infinite ammo crates are all over the place, so you should never have a problem with ammunition in this level. In fact, there's a lot of Covenant crates as well, and essentially what those are is they just give you more weapons. As long as you have a plasma pistol and a carbine, that's basically all you're going to need for this mission up until the point where you find the Mantis. So now that we've fleshed out the elite, he's going to be our top priority. Again, you want to hang back, because the Covenant in this game throw those grenades with deadly accuracy, and unlike anything else, if a grenade hits you, if it sticks you, that's it. Mission's done. There's no armor lock, no armor fail, no being brought back by your teammates. You have to start over again. So be very careful, be keenly aware of everything in the room. So in this next area, there's two more jackal snipers, but we're going to focus on these three grunts first because they're right there, right in our view. The sniper is going to be just a little further to the left and up a little bit. Look out for that red light. And there he is right there. So we're going to see if we can take him out pretty easily. And he's being very sneaky. Oh, we got him. Good. Now, when you advance, a phantom dropship's going to show up once you get too far out. So if you're able to take out the second jackal sniper, which is over here on the left-hand side, great. Usually the phantom's going to show up first, so just go ahead and wait it out. He's going to drop off a few jackal rangers, or not even rangers. I call them storm jackals because they have storm rifles. And there's going to be some grunts and an elite hiding out. But they won't come out until you advance far enough, so you're in pretty good shape right here. So there's two jackal or storm jackals that you need to worry about. Go ahead and take those out because they do have quite a bit of range, even though they can't really one-shot kill you. And you want to try to keep your shields as long as possible in case you get sniped. And see, look at that. On Mythic, you can actually withstand one shot from the sniper. Check it out, our shields are still up. But it's because you have that Mythic Skull buff, so it works pretty well. So there's going to be a few grunts over here. Usually once you shoot the first two, the third will try to retreat back to that other side. And you have a couple of options here. So if you want to travel to the side where he's heading, there's a few elites, there's a couple of ranger or storm jackals. There's a couple of shielded jackals, and there is a warrior elite. Taking them out this early on is optional, so as you can see, we advanced far enough. The grunts and that ranger elite drop, so you want to focus primarily on the ranger elite first. And again, they have really weak shields, so it's not going to take much to bring them down, especially with your allies supporting you. There we go. Now, on the other side, what you see is being fired right now is another stationary turret, so it's a good idea to take that out as well. The Covenant don't seem to be aggressively trying to mount that turret as much as the other ones in the area, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And wow, that guy just snuck up on me out of nowhere. I'm guessing that was the one that tried to retreat to the other side and then accidentally probably fell down to the lower level. I thought he stuck me, but apparently he didn't. I guess he just missed through the grenade, so lucky me on that one. I thought that was it, but apparently not. So it's going to suggest once you move up to separate. I would not recommend that. Keep your allies with you. Again, you have an option if you want to go over to the other side and clear out all those enemies first. You don't have to. I will say that once you advance on the right side, which is the way I typically go, some of those guys will climb up to the top of the spire. The elite definitely will. As far as the other ranger jack or the storm jackals, I keep getting them mixed up. Storm jackals and grunts, I'm not sure if they do or not. I know that some of the jackals and grunts definitely stay in that area, but the elite will come up there. So go ahead and burst through this. You'll have 2 shielded jackals up here. Take them out as quickly as possible because there's a special ops elite with an energy sword, a cloaked one might I add, heading directly to you. He was parked over on the top ledge over there in the back of the room, and now he's slowly making his way over. You can barely see him, so get out that plasma pistol, start peppering him. His shields aren't that powerful, so you should be in pretty good shape, and we're good to go. So this area is now yours. I'm going to see if I can melee that guy for shields real quick. Excellent. Very good. And you should be in pretty good shape. There's not a lot of opposition right now. You're going to have a few storm jackals to deal with, maybe a couple of rangers as well. The rangers have carbines as opposed to storm rifles, or at least how I refer to them. So just keep an eye out. Once you advance a little bit further, drop pods are going to come out of the sky. You're going to have more elites to deal with and more grunts as well, and I think a few more storm jackals. So just be wary. Now when the drop pods come down, they're going to contain 2 elite warriors. Now if you add those to the other elite warrior that's already on the map, you're going to have 3 that you're going to need to get rid of. So again, just take it nice and slow. Let's go ahead and get rid of this cannon fodder first. That's going to be our main thing. Just trying to clear this area. I'm going to go ahead and just take out a couple of these guys from a safe distance. That way I don't have to worry about anyone else trying to mount that turret and ruining our day while we're trying to ascend the spire. So again, we're just taking it easy. You're going to spend a little bit of time here, but that's all right. I actually do enjoy this part of the mission. It is kind of cool the way how open it is, and you have several different options. Why my guys went over there, I have no idea. I don't know if it's in the programming or what, but I have to keep telling them to come back over here. So just keep an eye out, because you definitely don't want to get taken off guard. The main issue I have with this area is there's so much debris in the middle of it that it's hard to position yourself in a way that you can easily just take out everything on this side of the room. So again, we're just taking it nice and slow. Feel free to reload anytime you want to. Again, those crates are infinite, so as long as you buy one, you will never run out of ammunition. At least as far as I know, those things have infinite ammo, which is definitely good considering how many enemies you're going to be taking out here. So again, just advance a little bit, enough to trigger the drop pods. And personally, I would say try to make the elites your top priority. If one comes into view, get him as quickly as possible. That'll definitely help you out. Again, just pepper him with a plasma pistol. I think I just heard my shields break, so again, that's not a big deal. But do keep an eye out for these storm jackals and ranger jackals that are going to try to cross the threshold into your space. Basically, this is where we're setting up camp to try to go ahead and finish this part of the mission. So take out the cannon fodder. If an elite comes into view, try to reevaluate your focus, or refocus your efforts to the elite, unless any particular enemies are just flat out trying to mow you down. So everything seems good so far. I think we've gotten most of the cannon fodder out of the way. I'm hoping that there's an elite on the turret. There he is. Now, the elites are definitely more aggressive when they're on the turrets. As you can see, they fire much faster than the grunts, so be careful here. But if we can take this guy down, there'll only be 2 left, and that's great. So, very convenient. I love it when they get on the turret because it just makes things so much easier. Okay, so 1 elite's down. We'll have 2 to go. Again, when the other one from the other side of the room ascends to this part of the spire, I don't know what the trigger for it is, but yeah, he will be there. And these guys are going to be tough because, especially when you've got that plasma pistol out, they're going to be hiding behind those drop pods and ruins.
Take that position.
So it's just a matter of being patient here for the most part. But one thing that you can do is get your guys out there so that you can basically flush out the elites. That's going to be your main thing.
Copy.
The best thing you can use your guys here for is more of a distraction than anything else. Now, I tried to send him to the other side of the room, but for whatever reason, he's trying to mount the drop pod. I'm not really sure what the deal with that is. And they all try to do that throughout my my tenure here. So that's okay, though. They eventually make it over there. But I don't want them to stay over there because there are jackals and a couple of special ops elites and also an elite warrior with a fuel rod gun at the top of the spire, and I want to try to keep my allies alive as long as possible. Basically, when I'm sending them back and forth here, it's just to figure out where the elites are. And that's all there is to it. So I keep hoping one's going to mount the turret, but no real luck there. So there's the second one. It looks like the third one as well. I'm going to see if I can get at least one of them while they're both distracted by my allies. This guy looks like his shields are about to pop. Can we get him? Man, all right, perfect. I thought he was going to get away. So we have 1 elite left. I know this guy's going to be a little bit more careful than his 2 buddies because he's the last man standing. So my allies are trying to weaken him. Really, the only Spartan here that has a weapon even remotely useful against the elite is Vale because she has a plasma pistol by default. So they're trying to corner the elite here, but again, those elites have deadly accuracy with their grenades. Generally speaking, your Spartan allies can survive a single stick unless their shields are down, and of course, if that's the case, if they get stuck when their shields are down, it's an insta-kill. And literally, that elite just took out 2 of my Spartans with grenades because they don't bother dodging or anything. I'm not really sure what their deal is here. Maybe their failing AI is just part of balancing the game out, so it's not too easy. So I'm going to try to get my guy over here. I'm hoping the elite will chase him, but again, he's playing it with caution. And I know pretty well that if I try to come at him from the other side, he's just going to move up behind one of the other structures in the spire. So there's not really a lot of point in doing that. It's just a matter of flushing him out. And don't be afraid to wait for your allies to respawn because you definitely want someone there to be able to revive you if you do go down, if you go into armor failure or armor lock. So I'm hoping that this elite will sort of stay out for at least a little while, you know, but it looks like he's too chicken to do that. Probably pretty smart of him to not do that, to be honest with you. So basically at this point, your best option, since we only have 1 ally remaining, is to wait for your other Spartans to respond or to respawn in. Right now, I'm just trying to flesh them out. I don't know if shooting will do anything. Sometimes it will. Sometimes tossing a grenade will work. Honestly, in this mission, it's fine if you want to waste your grenades doing that. It's not really wasting, but you're not really going to kill too many things with your grenades on Mythic Difficulty anyway. So go ahead and go nuts with them if you would prefer. So again, just waiting for the allies to respawn. That way we can try to get that elite. I'm seeing if I can just at least get an idea of where he's located. Because again, if I try to attack him from a different angle, he's just going to move to a different part of the map and he's not going to move anywhere. He's just trying to stay out of sight. He wants me to come within striking distance, and someone got a little antsy on the other side. I'm guessing it was either a grunt or a jackal. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little damage over there while I'm at it. So our allies are back. At least 2 of them are. So I'm going to go ahead and try to send them over there. See, okay, all 3 of them are back. Perfect. Hopefully they won't all get nuked by the elite this time, at least not so quickly. But once we get him down, it should be pretty easy from there. But yeah, so at this point, I'm just trying to get my allies back here. There's no sense in having my allies stay over there because I know they can't beat him, even though they might be able to soften him up a little bit, especially with Veil and her plasma pistol. There's really not a lot of damage they can do. But again, I'm hoping the elite's going to follow him, but they're not so far. He isn't so far. So, I don't know what it takes. They really want me to go. 343 really wants me to walk over there and get stuck. And this is partially why I've had such a rough time with this mission, is because usually that's what happens to me, is I get blindsided by a Covenant that's been hiding, or I get flanked. But it looks like we might be able to get this guy. Alright, so all 3 elites are down. Now, what you need to worry about here is now claiming the top of the spire. And the way you want to do that is approach it slowly. You're going to attack a couple of the jackals over on the right-hand side. What this will do is it will trigger the 2 special ops elites to actively come hunt you and your team. They're armed with energy swords. And again, they're going to be sort of elusive at first, but once your guys start actively trying to engage them, they're going to charge straight for you. Now, remember, they only have swords. So as long as you're attacking them from a distance, they're not really a threat to you. I don't usually see them throw grenades, which is a definite plus, because in this game, the elites are very grenade happy, especially with the catch skull activated. So I'm going to go ahead and move up just a little bit, see if it's enough to trigger these guys. I don't really know what the distance is particularly. I don't know if it's just I have to stir up the hive at the top of the spire or what the deal is, but either way, that's fine. We're just going to go ahead and pick off a couple of more of these guys. I don't want them sneaking up behind me while I'm trying to take out any of the jackals at the top or any of the guys up there. And then listen out for the special ops elites, because usually they'll yell out once they go on the attack. So again, I just went ahead and attacked those jackals. I'm keeping an eye out just to see if the special ops elites are coming down yet. I don't see them. There they are. Okay, so they're hiding over on the other side. So yes, once you start attacking the guys over at the top of the spire, that will trigger the special ops elites to come forward. So now, once again, just like we did before, we need to flush them out. And the best way to do that is to get your allies to do it. Now, again, if you want to be brave and try to venture out there yourself, that's fine. But see, once they see me going back over here, they're hesitating again. They just go back into hiding. So go ahead and just send your allies out there. That'll get them worked up. And then once you're sure that the elites have their attention completely on them, bring your allies back so they don't get killed right away, because they can fall pretty quick to energy swords. And now they're all trying to treat the drop pod like a jungle gym. Alright, so I'm bringing my allies back. Looks like that first special ops elite took the bait, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can finish him off. I don't like the way he's bouncing around like that, but again, their shields aren't nearly as powerful as the warrior elites. Okay, so again, this guy took the bait. He's going to try to charge forward, even though he is vastly outnumbered and does not have a ranged weapon. And both special ops elites are down. So again, you want to take the top of the spire very carefully. It's all jackals up there and one warrior elite with a fuel rod gun. He'll switch back and forth between his fuel rod gun and his plasma grenade. So be very careful. He's very accurate with those grenades, and it can easily end your mission if you're not careful. So there he is right there. Sometimes if you're lucky, he'll mount the turret, but a lot of times, because you have to go so far up to actually get him to engage you, your allies will join you and they'll start grenading the turret, which will take the turret out. See, and that's probably just what happened right there. And so now he's not going to mount it anymore. So again, the elite warrior is going to be your main guy. It's not a general in Halo 5. They're just called warriors. They changed all the elite ranks here, but I guess because they're Storm Covenant, that's why. So I'm seeing if my allies can do at least a fair amount of damage, at least soften him up a little bit, at the very least distract him. That way he's not throwing grenades at me. And I'm keeping my eye on the points counter too, because I know that 23,000 or 230,000 or whatever it is a jackal kill. And this guy's going to be like 500,000, something along those lines. So again, I'm trying to take him out. I thought I had his shields down, but apparently not. So again, we're just going to take it easy right here. He almost got me with the fuel rod gun. But yes, and Veil got him. Okay, so yeah, 81,900 for the elite warrior. Usually it's like 5,300 or something like that, or 53,000. And for the jackals, it's about 23,000. Oh, in that case, it was like 46. I don't know what the point scheme is. Usually I can tell, though, like what's been killed either by me or my teammates. So you want to pick up his fuel rod gun or have one of your teammates do it. I'd have one of your teammates do it, by the way. And go ahead and exchange your old plasma pistol for a new one. And hopefully they'll keep that fuel rod gun with them because we're going to need it later. But even if they don't, that's okay, and I'll get to that in a little bit. You can really just rush past this part if you want to. The phantoms and the spirits aren't going to attack you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't accidentally get in the way of a banshee going down. So again, we're just going to jump right across here. You can go underneath if you choose. You can fight on the first level or the second. I'd recommend the second. Make sure your allies stand right about here. And there's 3 grunts right here just inside the door. The one on the far right is going to have his head exposed, so you can take him out pretty easily. The other 2 grunts will have their backs turned. Sometimes you can use that to your advantage to get shields, but again, be careful. There's also 2 elites in this area. There's a ranger over there on the left side on the upper ledge, and there's a warrior. I think it's either a warrior or a storm elite. I'm pretty sure it's a warrior, but I'm not 100% sure just because the shadows are so dark here. I can't really tell. But I'm going to say that it's a warrior anyway. Usually it's strong shields versus weak shields. That's the way to go. So what you're going to want to do here... Whoop, careful. That's the ranger elite. And one of our allies is down. Okay, so get my teammates to resurrect him real quick. And send your allies to the far right side of the room. What this will do is it'll trigger the second elite, the more powerful one, if you will. And you want to keep your eyes out for both of these at the same time. Now, if you go into hiding over there on the left side and focus on this other elite, the ranger elite will start to get aggressive, and he'll use his jetpack to jettison himself up to this platform right here. So he just did that right now. I'm going to take him out as quickly as I can. He tends to retreat pretty quickly too, so just keep that in mind. So now we just have to worry about this guy over here. There we go. Yeah, it's a warrior elite. So with both elites down, you're in pretty good shape. It's just grunts left and a couple of jackal rangers. These guys have carbines, so definitely hold them at high priority, especially when your shields are down. And they just disappeared over there, so again, keep an eye out. Now, when Maki is about ready to send in her own dropship, her own phantom, her voice will come on, and essentially she says, you need to clear the area, and this will be your symbol that the spirit with the hunters is about to show up. When this happens, you want to rush into this back area right here. It's right across from the shade turret. Get your allies up here as quickly as possible, and there's a crate full of fuel rod guns back here. So right now, one of your allies should already have a fuel rod gun. You want your other 2 allies to also arm themselves with fuel rod guns so that all 3 should have a fuel rod gun. If for whatever reason your ally who picked up the previous fuel rod gun in the previous area somehow got killed in this area and doesn't have that weapon anymore, there is an additional fuel rod gun on the other side of this arena down the steps a little bit. Fortunately, we're in pretty good shape right now. All of our allies have fuel rod guns. Be careful because I'm not sure that we took out all of the enemies in this area. I think there's a grunt and probably at least a jackal ranger left, so keep your eyes out. Sometimes they'll get a little aggressive and try to follow you back here. So just remember that they're there. Now, what you're going to want to do when the hunters finally land is you're going to want to stick back in this area right here. Now, I'm not going to lie, I actually thought the dropship had already showed up at this point. I wasn't keeping an eye out, but at least that gave me an opportunity to get my shields back. So now the spirit has arrived with the 2 hunters. You want to send your allies to that other point right over there, and what's going to happen is you're going to want to whip out that carbine and start shooting at the ground. Now, this may look a little stupid, and I'm not going to lie, I feel a little stupid doing this, but what it does is it lures the hunters over to your location, and it has them pay attention to you while your allies shoot them in the backs with their fuel rod guns. So this should take them down pretty quickly. Sometimes the hunters will get a little bit scared, and they'll go into hiding. But essentially, that's what you're going to do here. That grunt snuck up on me, so I knew there was another one left. I got really lucky there that he didn't try to throw a plasma grenade at me. I would have been so pissed if that had happened. But fortunately, it did not. So again, just keep shooting at the ground. The main reason why we're not shooting at the hunters themselves is because they're going to start shooting at you. If you can see them, they can see you. And because of their secondary weapon, their little rapid-fire plasma blasts, or fuel rod blasts, or whatever they are, they can home in and they can do a significant amount of damage. And remember, your allies are located on the other side. So if you go down, they're not going to be able to help you. And I had to learn that the hard way. The last time I did not make it past this part, I got taken out by a hunter, and they started racing over as fast as they could, and Tanaka literally just reached me the second my timer was up, and I was like, oh, so close. But check this out. So basically they're just raining fuel rods at him. If one of your allies jumps down, because yeah, they do that sometimes, they're not very smart, go ahead and just redirect them back to the other side. You don't want to lose any of your allies here, because for every ally you lose, that's a fuel rodder that you also lose. It just means it's going to take significantly longer. And if all three of your allies go down to the hunters, then you're pretty much boned at this point. But again, remember, see where that little archway is right across from me? That's where the other fuel rod gun is located. But because of where it's located, it's pretty risky to do that in the middle of a hunter battle. So again, we're just taking our time here. That hunter is starting to get a little aggressive. I thought I saw him run up the stairs, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Again, just keep your eye out on your allies. Make sure all three of them are there. I see one of my allies is down, so I'm going to have one of my other allies bring him back. And I'm going to try to get that hunter back over here as well. So now we have 3 allies with fuel rod guns once again. So this should be fairly quick and easy. So, but I think the hunter might be hiding at this point. Sometimes the allies will go too far back, and instead of actually shooting at the hunter, they'll shoot at the ground or something like that. So I think the hunter might be hiding at the moment, but I don't want my allies sticking there very long, because otherwise it could spell out trouble. See, he's already getting like super aggressive. So to try to save my guys, I'm going ahead and shooting at the hunter's back, seeing what I can do there. They've already taken down one hunter, so that was pretty quick. And they're worth, I think, like over 100,000 points. You can tell when one of them goes down. So we're almost there. He barely has any health left at this point. Like, his back armor's completely gone. There's just like nothing there. So we should be almost there. But again, like I said, when your allies jump down, send them back up, because you do not want them to lose their weapons. So his shields are still crackling. So he's definitely getting close. He's starting to get smart too, because he's like, okay, I see what you're doing there, Tyrant. Yeah, I can't have that happen. So again, just taking our time here. Allies are finally back into it, and the hunter is down. Perfect. So now that means that my key is going to send us a pair of mantises, or mantids. I'm not really sure what the plural is. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section. And now we begin the very tedious part of this mission. Even though the Mantis is my favorite vehicle by far, I'm not going to lie. This part of the mission does start to get to me after a while. Basically, you're going to hop in. We have no shields. Obviously, it's not optimal to have 0 shields going into this, but you do have the Mantis protecting you. The Mantis shields, unlike yours, will recharge. So there's not much to worry about there. Okay, so here's the trick here. What I would do is I'm trying to send my allies in first, because I've had this issue before where I'll go in first and my allies and their Mantis will start shooting and they'll rocket me in the back. Obviously, you don't want that. You want to take as little damage as possible. And what I typically do with this area is when I start getting hit, if the shield breaks, I'll back up a little bit, let the shields recharge, and then go ahead and proceed forward and try to go ahead and take down my adversaries. Main reason you want to do that, if you manage your Mantis correctly, he can last, or it can last, it can last pretty much the rest of the mission without any issue. But if you just run out into the open and you start getting naded and fuel rod gun, yeah, it's gonna crumble like paper. It's nothing. So the only thing that I'm not really too thrilled about at this part is you have the Swords of Sanghelios helping you, but because everything's so small on the screen, I'm not really sure who's an ally and who's not. Usually I can identify the gold warriors pretty well, so at least that's going okay. But again, like when there's a lot of shadows and stuff, it's not always really apparent at first. The Swords of Sanghelios, if you're not sure, have red armor. Unfortunately, I'm colorblind, and so since the Warrior elites have gold armor. The gold and the red can sometimes blend a little together for me. Now, my Mantis, my ally's Mantis got dropped pretty quickly. Usually it'll last until the next area, and of course there's a spare wraith right there that usually your allies will take too, and that'll usually make it pretty far into the next area as well. Both got taken out here. In a way, that's a good thing, because I can show you how to actually make it through with no shields and no significant help. The Mantis really is your best option here for a few reasons, even though it does get tedious and boring. Really the thing is here, there's so many enemies in these areas that if you leave the Mantis, you're very exposed, and it's very easy to be taken off guard by a surprise sticky grenade or a fuel rod round or a mortar round from a wraith or anything like that, and so we don't want that. Fortunately, there are no snipers in these areas right here. All the snipers we fought back in the beginning of the mission, so we're in pretty good shape here. This next area is where you're going to be spending the vast majority of this mission. And I kid you not, you're going to be spending a lot of time here. It's a huge room, or a huge area, huge open area. It's got a platform in the middle. It's got some ramps and inclines over there on either side of it. And it's got a base level. On the far left side, there's a cave, and it's a pretty big one too. And under that big central platform right there is a pair of hunters. And so, yeah, there's a lot in this area. But your first main priority is going to be dealing with that wraith. There's two wraiths here. There's that one, and there's going to be one guarding the door as well. Wraiths will always be your highest priority, because they can pretty much, they can't one-shot you, but they can do significant damage to your Mantis. So far, we've been pretty lucky, because our Mantis isn't even smoldering yet. It looks pretty brand new. Like I said, it's pretty easy. Once you start taking a few shots, just back up a little bit, let those shields recharge. You do not want an unshielded Mantis taking too much damage, because you are going to need this for the vast majority of the mission. Now, I will tell you that I've seen this area tackled a couple of different ways. I've seen a couple of folks from my Mythic community actually get out of the Mantis and use those infinite carbine crates that you see over there on the left to basically shoot all the minions in the head instead of using the Mantis for it. And that works fine too if you want to do that. The speed on how you actually get through here is going to be about the same regardless. The main thing that you want to sort of look out for, though, if you do that, that's fine, but keep in mind that when you're outside the Mantis, you are very exposed. With the Mantis there, as long as you're keeping yourself in check, not much can really take you down. I mean, you have to be pretty reckless in order to destroy your Mantis at this point. Again, you can be taken by surprise, but as long as you're using your allies efficiently and you're keeping an eye on your immediate threats, you should be okay. But when you're outside the Mantis, you don't always have that luxury. And you also need to keep in mind that if you decide to leave the Mantis at any point, your allies can take it, and you know how they're going to treat the Mantis. So, you know, it'd be one thing if your allies weren't going to necessarily steal it, but they usually will try. I'm not really sure what my buddies did to make sure they didn't. I don't know if they backed up the Mantis a certain way or had to constantly keep telling their allies not to get in the Mantis if they tried, but really it's not worth the risk. Having the Mantis from here till the end of the mission will definitely help you out immensely. So I'm just chasing this elite for right now. He's really, after the wraith is gone, the elite's your biggest issue. The elites in this area in particular are going to be the most annoying thing, because your weapons really aren't that powerful. Now, when Vale's here to help you, and she's using her plasma pistol against their shields, it'll help you a lot more. But when you're just using this, you know, what'll happen is, unless all of your rockets hit and cause significant damage or toss them up into the air, what's going to happen is, even if their shields take a lot of damage, they're just going to go back into hiding. A full salvo of these rockets is not enough to take an elite shields down on Mythic Difficulty. So it's a matter of just trying to feel things out. If you're lucky, over there on the right-hand side is a bottomless pit. It's an abyss. So if you're able to launch them off that ledge, then it also still counts as a kill. So you're good to go. But like I said, we'll be spending a significant amount of time here. Sometimes you'll get lucky. There's a few empty ghosts in this area that your allies will pick up. There's an empty wraith around here somewhere as well. So it's not just the one that's in the room behind us, but there is a spare wraith that your allies can also use. So again, we're just taking our time here. I'm not going to lie to you. This is the boring part right here. In fact, I can sum this whole thing up in probably just a couple of minutes. Basically, what you're going to do is you want to take out all the enemies on the central platform first, which we've pretty much already done. We might have a few jackal stragglers, but really there's not much to it. If you want, there's a couple of jackals that'll hang out beside the central platform on the ramp over there on the right. Usually what I do is I start proceeding towards the left side, and I'll use that to sort of attack the hunters that are beneath the central platform. There's a pair of them there. Again, it's pretty simple. You just walk in and out of cover while firing your rockets off while you're out, avoiding them as much as possible. There's a few grunts over here, so go ahead and take them out as well. And in the cave, there's a few grunts and a very aggressive elite. You're going to want to take the elite out, because otherwise he will stick your Mantis, and that could be the end of it. As a matter of fact, I was almost done with this run at one point, a previous run that I was doing. I was practicing on what we call pseudo-mythic, which is legendary all skulls on, but sans iron and blind. And essentially what happened was I managed to launch that elite that we're shooting at right now into the air. He landed right in front of me and just started unloading everything he had, which, to his respect, I would be doing the same thing in his position. So yeah, he's definitely one you're going to want to deal with. At the very least, get him out of that area. If you end up launching him to the bottom floor, I've never seen him actually come back up and try to get to that cave, because it's just not worth it to him. So keep that in mind. Right now, our goal is just to get him outside of that cave so we can focus on the hunters. Sometimes you're going to have to use your allies to try to lure them out, but do not go into the cave itself. That's what you're going to want to try to avoid. Now, you see that number that just popped up? That means a jackal was just killed. So the elite is still alive and well. I like to keep them highlighted, but you want to be careful, because once your allies start dropping off, once they spawn back in, they're going to try taking on the elite by themselves. So my hope is that once the elite comes back, maybe I can just launch him to the ground level, because I don't think I've got enough firepower to simply take out his shields and then the elite himself. So again, this is where we just play the irritating waiting game, and there's going to be a lot of it. You're going to be spending the majority of the mission here. There's not much you can do about it. It'd be cool if you could speed run, but because of the wraiths, that's really not going to happen, and you can't really deal with the wraiths without dealing with everything else. Also, I should mention there's 3 hunters in this room. There might be a 4th one. It's really weird to see 3. I thought they were supposed to be bonded pairs, but there's 2 under the platform, and there's 1 towards the end. I think he starts out underneath the cave, and then he eventually climbs back up. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's 2 hunters, and I just have had the luck of never having to run into the 4th one. So, I don't know. But either way, if you follow this method, you should be able to get through without too much of an issue. I don't want my allies to get too close to that central area right there for sure, because those hunters are going to be my main target. So there's the elite, still there, slowing down the mission immensely, but at least he's outside the cave now. So, yep, we launched him off. So we should be in pretty good shape. I don't think I have to worry about him going back up to the cave. So we're just going to keep our eyes out. I think Vale is going after him in her ghost. So perfect. So there are the hunters right there. Basically, it's just a game of peekaboo. That's all it is. As soon as your rockets recharge, go ahead and peek your head out, quickly fire off the rockets, and then go back before the hunters have a chance to retaliate. You should be in good shape. It's going to take you a couple of minutes, but again, it's not too big of a deal. And as I can see one of my allies back there too, trying to distract them. So that works pretty well, but it's not mandatory. It'll help you out a little bit, because the hunters won't be so eager to take you out, because when they have someone much closer, they're going to ignore you for the most part. So again, it's just going back and forth, and as soon as you get that score of like 100,000, in some, I think it's like 100,017, something like that, I don't know. But once you see that score pop up, you know the first hunter is down, and just keep doing that for the second one. And that's really all you need to do. Then the third hunter is a lot farther off. So again, just taking these guys out. You can see why this took me a while to do. And all it takes is one mistake for you to fail. As a matter of fact, what happened in the previous run, practice run, Actually, it wasn't a practice run. I was trying to get this one down. I got this far, started going, approaching on the left side, and the Mantis fell in sort of a pit. It wasn't a bottomless pit. It was a pit that was big enough for a Spartan to go through, but it was too small for a Mantis. So basically, I was just stuck there. And that meant that the only thing I could do at that point was just get out of the Mantis and not use it for the rest of the mission, which, since I hadn't even destroyed the Wraith yet, that was not really the best of options. But I will show you where that pit is when we approach it, because I don't want you falling in there, because that'll be pretty much the end of the mission for you unless you are very lucky. Because taking out a Wraith without a vehicle can be quite a challenge. At least if you don't have any heavy weapons. So yep, that's the first hunter that's down. We have one more that's in there, but he's pretty weak at this point. He's completely focused on the other player, or the other Spartan, I should say, the other AI. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and slowly deal with this guy. Shouldn't have too much left. There we go. Both hunters are down for the count. And so there's a couple of things you can do here. Now, I want to go ahead and just take out some of the grunts that are in this initial part of the cave. If you want to, you can completely ignore the enemies on the other side. You really don't need to deal with them at all. Personally, because this is such a vast environment and I don't want to be overwhelmed once I get to the door on the other side, I go ahead and just take everything out. This place is a lot bigger than the spiral room, as I call it, from closer to the beginning of the mission. So a lot more can take you off guard. There's a lot of elites here, especially towards the door. There's elites with heavy weapons like fuel rod guns and plasma casters, so definitely be aware. It looks like we pretty much cleared most of this initial area out, which is good. We are going to be coming this way a little bit later, but as soon as we take these guys out, right now they're so far away that they're not even trying to dodge my bullets, which is funny. They're almost beyond the draw distance at this point. All right, so with those guys out, you're going to want to retrace your steps and get back up top. That's pretty easy. You just get on this little ledge right here, and then you can just drop down. Pretty easy, right? So we're going to go to the right side of the platform this time, and there's going to be some jackals over there, and there's going to be, I think, at least one elite, possibly two. There's one elite on the platform further ahead. I think there might also be an elite since we knocked the other one off the ledge. He's probably going to be waiting for us under the platform as well now that we're heading down here. What you're going to do is you're going to take these guys out. Once you progress far enough, a spirit dropship is going to show up and bring in reinforcements. That's why you want to clear out as many of these guys as possible so that you have less enemies to deal with when you approach the door. So there's one elite right there. Again, just take him out nice and slow. I think it's just a ranger because his shields seem pretty low at this point. There we go. So yeah, he's down for the count. Seems like a ranger because he was only worth 58,000 versus the 81,000 from the other elites. I could be wrong though. So there's another elite right there. That guy has a carbine, so be careful. Once you've gotten to that point, the spirit dropship is going to show up. So go ahead and retreat to the top, and you should be okay. Actually, it's two spirits. So again, just hang back. Don't let anything touch you. You don't want any of those spirit bombs, if you will, touch you. And once they're gone and nothing's shooting anymore, go ahead and go right back down there and deal with that elite again. Again, remember he has a carbine. So it's rare, but I've seen it happen before where you can get sniped out of the Mantis. It's only happened to me like twice, and I'm pretty sure my shields were down at the time. But just keep that in mind. That's why you want to exercise extreme caution when doing this. When your shields pop, just get back into cover for a second, let them recharge. I mean, look how far we've gotten into this. We've taken out basically half the room at this point, and the Mantis doesn't look like it has a single scratch on it. Oh, there's that second elite. Okay, so we have a few elites here. We're going to go ahead and take out this guy real quick. There we go. All right, so not too big of a problem. I'm just making sure nothing else tries to charge this area unexpectedly. Fortunately, since my allies were pretty good about getting ghosts, I don't think the enemies are going to be hijacking those ghosts themselves. There might be one left over there that I haven't seen yet, but if your allies end up getting the ghost, then the enemies will not. So yep, That elite's now starting to get a little aggressive, and he wants a piece of the Tyrant. So we're going to have to deal with this guy real quick. All right, so we launched him straight off the platform. Fantastic. That's definitely one of the ways to deal with them. If you can't flat out deal with them with firepower, if you have the ability to launch them off the set entirely, that's great. So there's a bunch of jackals down here. We're going to go ahead and deal with these guys real quick. We accidentally launched one up here. So, yeah, that kind of sucks, but took him out pretty quickly. Also, be very aware that there is a shade turret closer to the doorway. So we don't have to deal with that right this second, but just be aware that it's there. And one of my allies found a wraith. So perfect. We got a little bit of extra firepower there. That's perfect. All right, so now that we've taken care of that, I think we're pretty good to go in terms of heading into the cave, and that's how we're going to get to the door on the other side. There's going to be a couple of elites that you're going to have to deal with in the cave, and that's when you're also going to have to encounter the hunter as well. And since we're here, let's just go ahead and deal with the shade turret so we don't have to deal with it later. There we go. All right, so at this point, you're pretty much good to go into the cave. Just keep an eye out. Make sure you know where the hunter is at this point. That's going to be your big thing. All right, so we're inside. I'm trying to keep my eye out on the elite as well. I don't want him just lobbing grenades over at my Mantis and I don't have anywhere to go. So again, just slow and steady. There's no rush here. We're in pretty good shape so far. I'm sending my allies over there, but they're going the long way instead of just going inside the cave. So whenever they get back, I'm going to just go ahead and try to manually push them in there. For some reason, my personnel who's in the wraith, I'm not even sure who it is just sitting there, which pretty much sucks now that they've taken one of the stronger vehicles in this area, if not the strongest vehicle in this area. Now they're just sitting back and doing nothing with it. So thank you for that. He's just looking at me like, yeah, what do you want me to do about it? Well, you could drive it. That's what it's there for, to use for military situations. That's why it's called a wraith tank. All right, so my allies are really trying to deal with the elite here. I'm seeing if I can just get my allies up here so that nothing happens to them. I would prefer that all my allies be alive for when we start engaging the elites, because when the elites start chucking those grenades, things could get a little chaotic. So I'm going to see if I can get any of these guys while they're out in the open right here. Sometimes you can. Sometimes they'll be a little bit hesitant moving around if you're far enough away. It's not really a way that I like playing Halo, but if it's an option to take, it's an option to take. So that's what we're doing right here. All right, so again, the wraith is, I don't even know if he or she knows what he's doing at this point. Just sitting there. For a second, I thought that was one of the swords of Sanghelios, but I found out later that no, it is one of my pilots. Because they do follow commands, it's just they don't do it very well. All right, so that's a bummer. Was really hoping I could get that wraith on the lower level so that it would engage the hunters, or the one hunter that's left. But okay. All right, so I'm going to see if I can take this elite down. It's not very likely. Usually once you start pelting them enough, they'll go back into cover, but it's worth trying. It's worked before. And if it helps thin the ranks out a little bit, that works pretty well too. All right, so it looks like it's cave time at this point. Basically, you just want to make sure most of the area is clear. I'm still trying to wait for my allies to be resurrected so they can basically serve as a barrier, a soft barrier between me and any of the guys on the other side. Any of the elites, any of the hunters. So I'm going to see if I can actually get her to go this way this time instead of trying to go all the way around. Not really sure what the mentality is behind that there. But now I want to see where the elites and the hunters are. So it's time to go ahead and enter the cave. It's not really a cave so much as it is just ruins, but it looks like a cave from the outside. And again, take your time. So the hunter's going to be around the corner here too. So just keep your wits about you and you should be okay. But what you don't want to happen is be taken off guard. Fortunately, the hunters do not move very fast, so you should be in relatively good shape. But if you don't feel comfortable moving forward because your allies are dropping like flies, don't be afraid to wait for them to respawn in. That's completely fine and acceptable. In fact, it's recommended.
You got it.
So that elite's going to be my main adversary, it seems like, until the hunter actually shows up. Alright. So again, I'm just feeling out the area. Wow, okay, someone woke up finally.
Roger.
Well, good. So hopefully this wraith will help us out quite a bit in thinning our ranks. It looks like he's ignoring the elite that's over here, though, so hopefully that'll help out a little bit. Those wraith mortars can do quite a bit of damage, so if... Oh, and there's the hunter. Okay. So the hunter has shown up. The wraith will probably not survive this. That's what I'm guessing. Okay, yep, wraith is toast, but at least now we know where the hunter is. Again, it's the same procedure that you went through the last time. Nothing special here. Basically, it's just peekaboo. You peek your head out for a second, you fire off the rockets, and then you duck back into cover before the hunter has a chance to retaliate. Now, since I can't see the hunter right now, I'm trying to get these little guys out of the way first so that they're not shooting at me as well. Keep in mind, they can hit you with an overcharge shot, and if they do that, and the hunter fights back, well, then you're in trouble. So, again, just sort of peek your head out. I'm keeping my eye on that elite as well. But, again, the hunter's going to be your top priority here. So, again, if you want to wait for your allies, that's okay. But really, it's just a matter of taking it nice and slow. Nothing overly complicated here. And like I said, if your shields start taking some major hits, just retreat. The rockets are pretty good about homing in on the hunters. And unlike the elites, the hunters can't actually dodge out of the way. They can't barrel roll. They can't do a barrel roll. So again, just take your time. Sometimes they'll be a little bit further. Sometimes they'll back up a little bit. But take your time here and it should be fine. That elite occasionally pop his head out. Again, I'm not going to hesitate to try to take him out too. Just in case. Your allies can take a while to respond. I noticed in this particular section, and I don't know if this is all the time, my allies sometimes have a hard time giving verbal cues that they're back. I don't know if it was a glitch in the game. I don't know if it's just something that just happens in this part of the mission. I don't remember it happening previously. So the hunter should be getting pretty weak at this point. Fortunately, my allies are back. I want them to deal with the elite whenever he pops his head out again. If they go up against the hunter, they're going to lose. But again, since Vale has her plasma pistol, they actually do have a chance when going up against the elite. And it's kind of interesting seeing how they do it too. Vale will usually use an overcharge shot or just pepper the elite, and then someone else will come along and do a Spartan charge against an unshielded elite, and then the elite is complete toast. But it looks like the hunter's getting some backup. So again, I'm just trying to be a little careful here. You can send your allies in if you want, but it's not a bad idea to keep them close just in case someone tries to close the distance. And of course the hunter's down at this point, so that's fantastic. We're getting close here, folks. We are getting very close. If the elite's down for the count, or if at least the elite retreated back to closer to the doorway, then we're almost at the end of this particular segment at least. Like I said, we've been here for almost 30 minutes now, just to give you an idea of how long this particular segment is. Even if you're choosing to jump out of the Mantis and use your carbine, it's still going to take you a fairly long amount of time. And keep in mind, you're going to need the Mantis for the hunters anyway, because there really aren't any heavy weapons in this area. So the elite's finally down. Fantastic. Now we can start approaching the door itself. There is going to be a wraith guarding it, so just be aware. And there's going to be one elite with a plasma caster and another elite with a fuel rod gun. Both elites are going to be warriors, but focus on the wraith first. The wraith seems to hesitate to actually try to shoot you here. I think it's because of the slab of rock or stone that's sort of in the way. So try not to get too creative. Like, I'm getting antsy at this point. I've been in this open area for a half an hour now, so I'm trying to wrap this up as quickly as possible. But we're almost there. So again, the Wraith is going to be your top priority here. You might encounter a couple of ghost stragglers that might just be hanging around. They're not going to be a big deal, but I would make them a top priority if they start coming closer, because remember, they can close the distance pretty quickly, and they do have rapid fire plasma cannons. So keep those in mind. Okay, so the Wraith is finally down. This is where things start getting frustrating, because you're going to have to deal with these elites, and they take forever to take down. Because, quite simply put, if you try to leave the Mantis, and I'll try this a couple of times, just to show you, but basically you're putting a lot on the line. And the question is, now that we've been here for an hour with this mission, do you really want to take the chance? Now, in case you missed it, because I didn't point it out, that was my bad, the pit that I fell in by accident is just a little ways back. It can be kind of difficult to avoid. I mean, it's easy to avoid, but it's easy to fall into it as well, just because of where it's positioned. So just try to avoid any sort of dip that you can. So again, this is going to take a couple of minutes. Basically, wait for your allies to respawn if you want to. These guys have a fair amount of shields. And I think that's one of the ghost stragglers right there, which does not surprise me. I figured there would be at least one left. Fortunately, our allies took care of most of them simply by jacking them so they could be used for their own purposes. Alright, so what we're trying to do right now is just simply being patient. I'm taking out the minions, hoping that if I do that, my allies won't have too much of a hard time dealing with the elites themselves. And that's going to be one of your main strategies here. I'm trying to deal with the elite if I can. Whenever their minions like jackals or grunts show up, I think it's mostly just going to be jackals at this point. Whenever they show up, go ahead and make them a priority, just so that when your allies do respawn, they'll have less firepower coming in their direction. So I'm just trying to experiment here. I just wanted to see if this would be a good idea. I didn't realize I'd be leaving the Mantis this far behind, and of course, I know what's going to happen here. As soon as my allies spawn back in, they're going to jump inside the Mantis and just go complete kamikaze on these Covenant, and I don't want that to happen. So again, just trying to take it slow at this point. There is an infinite carbine crate right there if you do want to go that route, but of course, even if you do use your plasma pistol, you know they're still going to dodge it anyway. And so the nice thing about being at the Mantis is once Vale starts using her plasma pistol on those elites, you can follow up with a barrage of rockets along with the machine gun, and that should do the job. It just basically requires your allies to cooperate with each other, which can be very hit and miss in this game. But we're almost there. Again, if you're not sure if an elite's been taken out, just keep an eye on the numbers. And be aware of that plasma caster. One just exploded right in front of me, and there's another one right there. Yeah, those can be pretty dangerous. So try to avoid those at all costs if you can. And sometimes your allies will do a pretty good job about taking these elites out themselves, sometimes, if you're lucky. So just, if you're not sure whether an elite has been taken out or not, just keep your eye on those numbers. So what we're seeing right now, that 23,000, those are jackals being taken out. There we go. Your rockets will sometimes stray off from the initial target and hit another target instead, and that's where we're seeing the jackal numbers going up. But again, this is fine. I would rather have the minions taken out so that my allies can just focus on the elites. And so far we're doing pretty good. One elite just got launched way in the distance. So maybe that means he won't be back. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so... Yep, gotta be careful. To get too grenade happy, you gotta be really, really careful because you don't want to get stuck. I think you can survive one stick if your Mantis is in pretty good shape, but we're not done with this mission yet. The question is, if you get ultra aggressive, and I know it's tempting because we're over an hour into this now, and I know it gets tempting, but just hold back. Like I said, you don't have to use the Mantis if you don't want to. I know it's a little bit more tedious with the Mantis, but you have a higher chance of success with the Mantis as long as you're using it correctly. That's going to be your main thing here. It's like I keep saying, whenever you see the shields break, don't hesitate to just take cover for a few seconds, let them recharge, and then go at it again. This elite's really starting to piss me off. This is the guy with the fuel rod gun. And his buddy over there has the plasma caster. So my guys are back in now. It shouldn't be too much longer at this point. Oh, he almost got me. I don't know if he actually stuck me or not, but pretty close. It doesn't look like we're smoldering or anything yet, so the Mantis is still in good shape. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because we still have one area left. It's a small area compared to this one, but it's still something. So I don't want anything to happen this late into the mission at this point. Once you've been playing for over an hour, you really just want to succeed. So we're getting there. We're getting close. It's just hard to always pinpoint how close it really is. All right, so I guess that's another jackal that went down. Plenty of jackals, but that just goes to show you how many enemies are in this room. You know what? I'm going to make that ghost my next priority. I'm not really that concerned about the elite at this point because the barrage is going to literally do nothing to take this guy down. Oh, never mind. Okay, we actually got one elite. I think that might have been the plasma caster elite. Well, good. All right. Well, finally we got one. I couldn't tell because they're so far away. So it was either the plasma caster guy or the fuel rod gun dude. Okay, it was the fuel rod gun. Wow. I did not see that coming. All right, so I got to aim for the ghost. Trying to make sure that... Wow, where'd it go? There it is. All right, now I'm trying to lure the ghost out so I can just go ahead and deal with it. If you're not sure whether or not you've hit the ghost, remember, just keep an eye on the scoring. That's one of the really nice things about having the scoring on here is that not only does it make the cutscenes not happen, but you also can tell when an enemy has gone down. So that's a definite plus here. All right, so one ghost is down. Let's see, are there any others in this area? It's just the one. Nope, there is one more. So let's go ahead and take this guy out real quick. Yep, both ghosts are down. I'm feeling pretty good about this now. I don't see... There's one elite, but he's retreating back there. If I can get my allies to respawn, then I might be able to take him out pretty easily. Or, worst case scenario, I can always launch him off the cliff, too, if he travels that far. Thanks to the mechanics of the cowbell skull, explosions have a more exaggerated impact. So again, just being real careful here. When my allies come back in, it shouldn't be too much of a big thing. I can start approaching the door and get a little bit more aggressive now that the enemies have been pretty much thinned out to almost nothing. I know it's tedious, but you got to do it. It's just this area is so complicated and there's so many enemies in it that it's just a matter of slowly whittling them down until there's nothing left. It's not the best way to play Halo, but you know what? At least you have bigger battles. You know what? It's time to look at the silver lining, right? Okay, so that elite's down. Come on, come on. There we go. I don't think there's anything else. I don't see anything, but I'm going to keep my eyes open just in case. I feel like there's at least one elite left. Oh, there's a jackal, that's for sure. It's a jackal! It's a jackal! Okay, so the door's open. There's going to be some grunts immediately on the other side. Uh-oh. There's the elite. I think that's the plasma caster dude that ran off earlier. Okay, that's not a big deal. I think we can take him out pretty easily. At least my allies are here, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Of course, they're all getting melted by plasma grenades. So I'm going to start getting a little aggressive here myself. Got to take this guy out. Too far along in this mission for this guy to completely screw me over. So, yep, all right, down for the count. It's easy to do that with elites if you're not worried about the elite's backup, but unfortunately, prior to that, that's all we had. Just a bunch of elites, all of his jackal minions, his grunt minions. Too much backup. But against one elite, it's usually not that big of a deal. just be wary of the plasma grenades and you should be fine. So in this area, it's just a bunch of grunts and 1 elite. And up ahead, further than that, is 2 jackal rangers. But all in all, it's pretty easy at this point. And you have a couple of options here this time around, and I'll go over them with you in just a second. Let me go ahead and take out these guys real quick, and then I'll tell you what you can do and what I recommend you do. Because I've seen this played out a couple of different ways.
Standing by.
Okay, the elite's almost down for the count at this point. He is pretty resilient. I mean, he's taken like 10 rockets already. Trying to make sure. Okay, there we go. So the elite's gone. Proceed forward. Keep note that there are ghosts right there on the right-hand side, and I'll go into those more in just a second. So here's what you can basically do at this point. Now that you've cleared out this hallway, if you want, you can abandon the Mantis, go back, get the ghost, and actually rush through this next area up to the top of the spire. See that window up there? That's where the Arbiter is located. You can do that. However, I'm going to tell you why I'm not doing that here, and why instead I'm basically just doing what I did in the last area, but on a lesser scale. So from what I've witnessed just in my practice runs and seeing what's happened to some of my mythic companions, the first death I saw was death by drop pod. Basically, the drop pods drop in the same space every time. If you're far enough to the right, you don't have to worry about it, but it does happen. All right, so drop pod was one. The second, this happened to me on my practice run, is I was hijacked by an elite inside the temple. And when I was hijacked with no shields, of course, that was it. That was the end of the mission right there. I mean, it was within my grasp, and it was just, that's how quickly it ended. And the third way is I got stuck by an elite with a plasma grenade when I went inside the temple. Getting inside is not that difficult because all you're going to face immediately out here are jackals and grunts. That's it. It is possible for one of them to overcharge you, but generally speaking, they're just going to pepper you a little bit. You're going to take damage, that's for sure. Well, by the way, yes, there is a turret right there. Take that thing out as soon as you get a chance. It'll usually take a couple of rocket barrages to get it, especially since with the angle that you're at, usually half the rockets will miss. But anyway, so the ones that I can say could happen: death by drop pod, death by vehicle hijacking, death by plasma grenade, and death by overcharge shot, followed up by whatever else is in the area. And again, I've seen people do it without too much of an issue. The question you have to ask yourself at this point is, after everything we've been through, after spending almost 40 freaking minutes in that previous area, taking out everything, do you really want it to end here? And don't forget, before that you had to deal with the hunters, before that you had to deal with the spire. Oh my gosh, do you really want to have to repeat this just because you started getting antsy towards the end of the mission? The answer is, I don't think you do. Now, like I said, it can be done. A couple of my colleagues have done it. Oldenaki just did it not that long ago. Congratulations, my friend. And also Michael W. Smith, another Mythic member, he was able to do it as well. His mission was actually took him less than an hour to do, and in part because he was able to just blow through this area instead of just taking everything out. Now, if I had opted just to simply blow right through it, this would have taken me a little over an hour total. But I like to play it safe. Also, it should be noted that when Michael did his run, he didn't stay in the Mantis the entire time. He hopped out and then proceeded to basically try to use his carbine on things, which is fine. By the way, so once you actually take out that initial wave and you proceed more forward or further into the room, a couple of more drop pods will come down, and they're going to contain 2 elites, each one elite with a fuel rod cannon. So they're warrior elites with fuel rod cannons. This is basically all that's standing between you and the end. It's not a lot. It's mostly just grunts and jackals, and you'll have a couple of elites that you need to deal with. It's nothing major. And as you can see, even with the damage that we've taken so far, we've taken some pretty serious hits with a couple of plasma grenades. We got brushed up a little bit by a fuel rod gun. But there's no smoldering, there's no fire. The Mantis is in pretty good shape. So yes, this is a completely viable, but still tedious option. So yes, you do have a couple of options. Just to go over them again, in the previous area, you can opt to either A, fight it out in the Mantis, which is what I recommend, or B, you can hop out and use the infinite carbine crates to basically systematically take everything out and then get in the Mantis for the bigger obstacles like hunters and wraiths. It's up to you. Ultimately, since you're this far into the mission, I recommend just staying in the Mantis. We're almost there at this point, and to me, that's just the more logical thing to do, especially if this is your first time playing. So, and of course, in this area, you have the option of either fighting out in the Mantis or speeding through it on a ghost. Both are possible, but this one is far less risky. And when I spoke with the other Mythic guys, they agreed that, yeah, you can do the ghost. It's certainly viable, but it's very, very risky. And considering how long this mission is, I think this is the longest mission that I've played since the mission Blue Team, which is considered to be the hardest mission in the campaign. So that shows you that this one's pretty far up there too. So if you have the opportunity to play it safe, that's what I would honestly recommend here. So it looks like we've gotten pretty much everything. We can head inside the temple now. Usually what I do here, if I'm not sure if the enemies have been cleared, I'll send my allies to the different sides where the stairs are, just to make sure there's no grunts that are hiding. So we're going to go up here. It's mostly jackals. There are going to be a couple of elites up here too, so just be careful. Again, because it's so dark in here, it can be very tricky to identify exactly which elites are storm elites and which elites are swords of Sanghelios. So again, just take your time. It can be a little complicated, unfortunately. They don't have those really cool green ships like they did in Halo 3. But just look at what elites are. I would say just look at the elites that aren't attacking you, and you should be in relatively good shape. Look at what elites your allies are attacking. That also helps too. And we're almost there. I think that elite's down for the count. Fortunately, you have the Swords of Sanghelios backing you up here, so you should be in pretty good shape. And now all we have to do is climb the spire, take out a few minions along the way, and we're good to go. So this is Swords of Sanghelios in a nutshell on Mythic Difficulty. What I mean in a nutshell, this is from start to finish, the full deal. So what did you think about it? What's the hardest part of this mission for you? What are you looking forward to the most? What are you dreading the most? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And I hope you'll consider checking out my Patreon page as well, just to help me out with this site, help keep it going. And we also have a MythicTyrant store. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this walkthrough. I'll catch you all right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.